I've only done one thing in life, and it was TYT. Like, really, I've done one thing. I don't have kids. I've chosen not to. And I feel that I have a lot of guilt, and I feel like the one thing I've done in life, I've done it wrong. So I'm just trying to be better.
Yeah.
You know, that's all.
Well, you're doing, I think, a fantastic.
Oh God, we got to the spicy part where my speculation came. We got revealed. She was cosplaying the whole time, guys. She didn't actually believe that. Oh.
Yeah, dude. Isn't that crazy?
It's all been a lie. And what's crazy is that people will still watch her on that network, lie to them.
Anna is a writer, a journalist, a host, and a producer on the Young Turks, a news network you can watch online or on your TV. And I'm so glad she's joining us today. Anna, welcome to Black and Reported.
Thank you for having me. This is easily my favorite podcast, and it's so cool to be here.
Wow,
yeah,
that is shocking to hear. I don't think we're anyone's favorite podcast. We found the one.
It's their favorite podcast? Oh, what the dude, it's over. It's over for the Young Turks.
Yeah.
I want to get into the state of the media in a little bit, but we've got a great show planned today. In the second half of the show, you're going to tell me about a movement to ban police from doing traffic stops. I'm very excited and a little nervous to learn about that. But first, let's talk about you a little bit. So until fairly recently,
Anna is now synonymous with being a TERF and a cop worshiper. She's a bootlicking, trans-hating Los Angeles Karen.
Yep.
And from the company that I assumed you keep. And I apologize for this, but my impression of you was that you were pretty much a leftist woke scold. Mm-hmm. Certainly not the worst offender by any means. I searched your Twitter yesterday, and I was pleasantly surprised to find that you've never called anyone a TERF. But as part of my offense archaeology,
as if that, like, people say that as if it's like the worst line, like, beyond this line you should not cross. It's like, but you better never tune into the Vanguard, because you are soft as hell. You like want to talk about, oh, I hate woke scholar, but don't call me a TERF because that hurts my feelings. I'm just a little daffodil. Yeah, fuck you.
TERF isn't even like a slur or anything. It's just
no,
like
it's just an expression for what you are, which is a trans exclusionary feminist. Okay, I'll call you a TEF if you hate being called a TERF.
Yeah.
But you're a radical in your hatred of fucking trans women.
That is the attitude I'm talking about, and the attitude that I thought that you held. So this is in response to Glenn Greenwald. You tweeted, "If you or anyone you know is trans and slept with Joe Rogan, we'd like to know so we can understand why he's so obsessed with the trans community." And now it's 2024, and you've become very outspoken against identitarianism, and you're guest hosting a podcast for notorious trans baby killer Jesse Singal. So my question for you, what the hell happened?
Well, I have gone through a bit of an evolution, or depending on who you talk to, something.
You don't say.
I compromised all of my empathy.
Do you hear that admission too? She's like potentially a regression or something.
It's trans baby killer Jesse Singal. So my question for you, what the hell happened?
Sorry, I went back a little
I have
too far.
gone through a bit of an evolution, or depending on who you talk to, something, a regression.
Yep. Jinx. Okay, what else do you say to that? She just came and outed herself. She's like, well, I realized I've become kind of a hate monger and a fear monger. Well, you know, I just have been discovering my inner Richard Nixon.
Yep. And by the way, it's like literally almost now a daily fixture of the Young Turks programming to include a propaganda segment, a segment that starts off by talking about how progressive prosecutors have failed and you know, progressive criminal justice reforms have failed. And what's the correct answer to that? More fucking cops, almost without a fucking, you know, like every single time. It's so predictable. I watched this video last night just out of, you know, curiosity. I'm like, you know, just to be fair, what's she saying here? The same fucking shit over and over again. It's like her one thought. It's genuinely crazy how every single video just ends up being like, yep, more cops. This city is in shambles because they defunded the police. It's fucking Fox News. It's not even Fox News Light. It is Fox News.
Yeah, this is the exact kind of shit that we would be reacting to if we were talking about Gutfeld and the shit that him and Bill Maher actually agree on. I mean, she's just a boomer fucking NIMBY at this point, but she wants to hold on to her liberal Democrat credentials when really all of the things that she's willing to be sympathetic towards from a liberal perspective are, most of them, they're not even, you know, from a socialist value set anymore. It's from like a societal cultural norm place. And she's not willing to stick her neck out on any of the actual critical lines. You know what I mean? It's bullshit.
Yep.
And we would be getting more fair commentary from, you know, I don't want to say establishment media, but I've seen ballsier commentary and fucking, The Nation or the New Republic or like old school, like fucking like kind of like admittedly, there's also a ton of dog shit in those publications too. Like the lady that said that she would vote for Joe Biden even if he boiled babies and ate them. I remember that from the Nation.
All timer. Yep.
But what
Mhm.
how it all started really had to do with something that I had experienced personally that had nothing to do with the transgender community. And the way the left reacted to what I experienced started opening
Made
my
me
mind
hate
up
trans
to
people. That's fucking
possibilities.
crazy to admit. We have to pause it, guys. I'm sorry, but she's just making it's like she's sitting on her therapist's couch and the therapist is like, "What's causing you distress at work?" And she's like, "Well, I didn't used to hate trans people or poor people, and I didn't used to just try and write off, people who had less money than me as criminals, but society forced me to. I had an incident happen, and it's like, okay, one incident is, I get it, it was traumatizing. Yeah, you should have every right to go to therapy. I don't want to speak for what it's like to be a woman that has something like that happen to her, but that doesn't give you carte blanche to just change your entire politics unless you were already thinly committed anyway. Yep. And I think the reality of all of this admission of guilt here is that she does want to rebrand. And I think it's been a while since she has actually believed in what she was saying on the microphone. And so now it feels like she's unloading a burden. That's why she's so stoked to come on here and be a guest host, because she's finally able to take the mask off and show people who she is. And what happened was when she was a 21-year-old little bright-eyed producer, Cenk Uygur was like, shit, I'm going to get in trouble for naming my corporation the Young Turks, and it's going to be a big hassle to change the name of everything. I don't know if I have that kind of money. Here, I'll just have a co-host that I can mold to say whatever the fuck I want, because she's Armenian and I'll use her as my scapegoat, and she's not bad to look at. Perfect. Two birds, one stone. Ready? Let's go. And then that's how I'll attract a younger audience. And honestly, like from a media perspective, from a political perspective, I mean, how could you not have, like, I don't want to use like all the baggage that's involved with grooming, but he definitely molded her political perspective over the years, right? To be the perfect side host to Cenk and everything that he wanted. And I think now she's finally willing to spread her wings and fly. And she's like, I'm actually not a progressive. Like, I actually am just a classic liberal. Like, I don't hate poor people, but I also don't love them either. So keep them away from me and maybe I'll be sympathetic to them. You know what I mean? That's the kind of energy she has now. She's just like an Orange County voter. And she fits in with people who probably make about as much money as she does. She just doesn't actually have a spine or conviction or real political beliefs outside of her own like social class.
Yep. And get ready for this, guys, because she's about to drop one of the biggest lies that I've ever heard come out of her mouth. A completely disgusting mischaracterization, not only of the entire progressive left online, but honestly of her own audience. I'm frankly disgusted by this because I remember this moment. I remember us talking about it. And I remember the progressive community responding to this story that Ana Kasparian told. And it's nothing like the way she recounts these events right here on this podcast. If you had no idea what she was referencing and you just heard this for the first time, you would be like, that's horrible. That's disgusting. How dare people treat you like that? Take a listen to this bullshit.
Maybe they're full of crap on certain things. And I started questioning a lot of things. So what sparked this change was sexual assault that I experienced in my own neighborhood as I was walking my dog. I opened up about that experience on TYT and was pretty shocked at the reaction I got. I'm opening up about something terrible that happened to me. You'd think you'd get a little bit of understanding or sympathy, but instead, since the person who carried out the sexual assault was homeless, I started getting called racist, which was kind of hilarious because I had never disclosed the race of the individual, who actually happened to be white. They said that I was putting out propaganda against the homeless.
Pretty sure people were calling you racist because you were like attacking people advocating for defunding the police and serious progressive criminal justice reforms, most of which affect the fucking black community. And you're over here advocating for more cops on the streets and telling abolitionists that they're crazy. That's the fucking racist part. No one was calling you racist over the homeless guy humping you in the park or whatever happened, which is terrible. But it's completely inaccurate to say that the left responded that way. It's completely fucking inaccurate.
Yeah, literally everybody says, hey, Anna, we're so sorry that happened to you. Obviously, that was a crime. That's uncalled for. That's unacceptable behavior by every metric on the left. We on the left constantly talk about how assault against women is unacceptable in all capacities. And yeah, that person should be punished. But do you know what that's not an excuse for? Do you know what was separate from that? I can share empathy for Ana Kasparian. I can have sympathy for Ana Kasparian because she was the victim of a traumatic assault, right? It clearly made her feel unsafe when she left her house. It clearly impacted her psychology, and she should go to therapy and she should get help so that she could deal with that properly, right? Do you know what I don't accept? And you know what none of the left accepted? That was going to be her excuse to, always use it as a cudgel whenever anybody asked her why she pivoted on a lot of really critical cultural battlegrounds right now, and how you've profited. Now let's talk about this. You've profited off of this cause for decades. Almost at this point, I think 20 years, something like that. She's been not quite 20 years. Let's say 15 years. She's been on the Young Turks, something like that. Okay, so you've been profiting off of all these issues, but you're not here to stand on them when the fucking rubber hits the road. You're not, you know what I mean? You're willing to sacrifice and sell these people down the river, these people who invested in you, these people who invested in your media career. And on the Vanguard, because I don't think this podcast is a revolution, because I just know I'm talking to my homie and we try and entertain you guys and we try and make you feel like you're not alone and build a community of people from all across the country. Like, there's a lot of special shit about this, but we're not building a movement. We're not changing the world. We're not doing activism tuning into this podcast, right? That's the lie Ana Kasparian and Cenk constantly sold to their audience. So people are like, why do you guys get so worked up about this? Because they skimmed so much money off the top of the progressive movement that could have gone to local organizations. They skimmed so much money off the top of progressive unions that could have gone to, tenant unions, food banks, mutual aid groups, feeding people, all this kinds of stuff, right? Could have gone anywhere. Could have gone to give books to the local library. It would have been a better use than sending it to this amorphous Young Turks organization, which then still took millionaire money, which still sold their viewers down the fucking river. And now what? What do they have left? They have anti-trans talking points. They have pro-real estate developer endorsements, billionaire fucking mayoral endorsements coming from Cenk. You have Cenk busting his own union. You have multiple failed campaigns for office. One where he got absolutely embarrassed in his own district in California to Christy Smith, who then herself got embarrassed in that election. Okay, so it wasn't close. Then he audaciously fucking comes out and says he's going to run for president, even though he wasn't born in this country, doesn't do any going around in campaigning, only sells the book. It's obnoxious. It's progressive racketeering. It is 100% taking people's eye off the ball, and it's bullshit. And I'm fucking thankful that at this point I'm not just barking at the fucking wall, that I'm not just pissing in the wind over here. Every single fucking time we do this podcast for 4 years, we've been telling you guys what's up about the Young Turks network. Okay, and they have suffocated the progressive movement, and they've basically immobilized it. Think about all the stuff that they could have done with that money. Think about the journalism that they could have funded. Why did they stop doing TYT reports? Fine, you fucking hate Jordan Cheriton. Why didn't they hire somebody else to do it? Right? There are other competent reporters from around. We just had creative different. Oh no, that wasn't it. It was because they didn't want somebody else to be taking their attention away from Cenk, because Cenk is a control freak. And he only picked the progressive political lane because it was a lane. And now that it's not as much of a lane, he's prepared to pivot, just like Ana, because this has always just been a business to them. It's just how they butter their bread.
Yep, absolutely. And let's listen one more time to this obnoxious lie that Ana tells about her own audience, her loyal audience, at least formerly loyal audience. And then we'll show you guys some receipts real quick.
Person who carried out the sexual assault was homeless. I started getting called racist, which was kind of hilarious because I had never disclosed the race of the individual, who actually happened to be white. Mm-hmm. They said that I was putting out propaganda against the homeless community when I was specifically talking about one event that I experienced. And so all of a sudden,
pure fucking lies, guys. So I did some research just out of my own curiosity. I was like, when was Ana Kasparian's first real pivot? At least when it came to the whole crime and homelessness and police issue. This is what I could find, guys. And feel free to send me other things in chat if you think I'm wrong, but this seems to be the video that really started it all. It was 2 years ago. I think it was published in August of 2022, something like that. And a clip from this went viral on Twitter. We reacted to it at the time also in August. It was right here. Our homie RJ joined us to talk about it, and her and Cenk are sitting right here. Again, from everything I can find, from all the records on Twitter and YouTube and everything else I combed for, this was the first instance of Ana Kasparian truly, beginning her anti-homeless arc. Let's take a quick listen to the video in case anyone forgot. But it's actually this that, kind of turned Anna's audience on her, not the fucking story about sexual assault, which I, once again, did research, scoured the fucking internet, could not find a single comment in any way demeaning or degrading Ana Kasparian for that experience, shaming her, nothing like that. Only pure condolences. I'm so sorry. That's horrible. That's horrific. This is what people were upset about. This is what people were upset about. And then a month or two later, you come out here with your story, your admittedly very sad story. And then when people don't immediately change their tune and start agreeing with your tough on crime propaganda, you accuse them of not caring about your sexual assault. That's disgusting. Let's take a look here real quick in case you guys forget, because this is the first clip that we ever reacted to of Ana going on a disgusting anti-homeless rant, as we put it at the time. Let's jog everyone's memory, because this clip did not include her talking about being sexually assaulted. And this is why people were mad, not the story about her being sexually assaulted.
I do think that there are progressives, I don't know if it's progressive policy, but progressives in places like California who have made terrible decisions. And so one of those terrible decisions is essentially doing away with anti-camping laws, right? Allowing people to camp out wherever they want, whenever they want. And if, we have a homeless problem in California, we have it all throughout the country, but it's particularly bad in California. And so the argument is, well, if there isn't public housing available for people, they should be allowed to camp out. Okay, but there's also a problem right now where there is public housing available and individuals will say, no, I don't want to take it. I don't want to follow the rules in the public housing. And
pause it. Oh my God, I'm getting triggered again. I'm getting triggered again. Bro, how about this, guys? You ever have a dog? You ever have a pet before? You ever have a pet? Gavin, you have pets. We love our pets, right? I'll fucking do anything for my dog. I'd sell my fucking car for my dog if he needed surgery. I swear to God, I would do anything for that little bastard. Okay, I just would, right? I don't know. I love the little fucker. I just wouldn't be able to live with myself if anything fucking happened to him. Okay, he's asleep in my fucking bed. The dude is living the king life right now. Okay. Anyway, do you know if you're a homeless person, your dog probably means a lot to you, right? Our homie Glenn Greenwald, he runs an entire shelter in Brazil with dogs, and all of the people that run it, they were, homeless folks that now, run the relationship that they develop with these dogs. It's fucking intense, man, because you don't have fuck all. You're homeless. You don't have shit going for you. The only person that looks at you and loves you and believes in you and supports you, or not person, but the only thing in the world, rather, your fucking dog, right? Your dog doesn't give a fuck you're homeless. Your dog knows that you care about it, that you take care of it, that you sleep next to it, that you protect it, that you feed it, right? That's what your dog knows. The fucking intensity of the bond that a human being can develop with their bond or with their dog, especially at the lowest points in their life, that shit is powerful, right? So no fucking shit. You tell me, oh, you got to go sleep in this shelter, but your dog is going to the pound, and we don't know if we'll be able to get it back to you. Yeah, fuck you. I'm not doing that, and neither are any of these people. And yeah, you might say oh, well, a lot of them are fucking doing drugs. Yeah, wouldn't you be doing drugs? I would be getting fucking baked out of my fucking mind. I'd be. Take me the fuck out of this misery of being in Los Angeles and eating garbage just to stay alive. Come on, have a little bit of a sense of empathy and not be a pearl clutching mom for a second. Just stop. Oh, there's plenty of places for them to stay. They just don't like the rules. It's they're grown ass adults, bro. Are we taking away their freedom? Are you trying to incarcerate these motherfuckers from 8 p.m. until 7 a.m.? What the fuck is the matter with you?
Yep. Either way, that was the clip, and that was the video that really started this all. Remember, that was I think in August of 2022. It wasn't about Ana Kasparian being assaulted by a homeless person. That's never what the backlash was about. Again, that came after the fact. She dredged that up or brought it up, whatever, to justify her pivot, to soften her audience, I guess, to what she had been saying and the escalating rhetoric against homeless people and the propaganda that was increasingly being spewed on the Young Turks. That all came later, though. And again, I scoured the internet. I could not find a single comment or a single person demeaning her or degrading her or even mocking her. Like, I really couldn't find it. Almost every single clip and every single comment I found was people saying that's horrible, that's awful, that's inexcusable. I'm so sorry that happened to you. That being said, I still disagree with you on this political topic. I'm not going to change my policy because of an anecdote, however tragic it is. That's not how this fucking works. So yeah, I just think it's a disgusting distortion of reality there for her to blame the entire left, act like, you know, all these lefties claim to care so much about sexual assault and the Me Too movement, but as soon as I came forward, everyone just shunned me and called me a rich white liberal. Bullshit. You know that's not what happened.
Again, scapegoating with fucking a horrible, tragic experience and using that as a way to fucking further marginalize the most desperate people among us is quite a bold move.
Yep. This does get better though, guys, so buckle up.
Ask was off in regard to the political side that resonated with me the most. And I just started to wonder about other narratives and other things that I kind of took at face value with the left. And then one day, it was definitely an impulse, and maybe I should have thought about it a little more before I did it. I had tweeted about how much I dislike phrases like birthing person or person with a uterus, and I just specifically said I would like to be called a woman.
Okay.
And then all hell broke
Let's pull
loose.
receipts on that again, because the Vanguard's been at this a while. It's funny. There's actually a clip of Dave Rubin. I believe it's Dave Rubin having a meltdown about, you know, using inclusive language and pronouns. And Ana Kasparian, back when she was a progressive, she sits on her little desk chair at the Young Turks, and she talks about how ridiculous that is and how it doesn't hurt anybody to use inclusive language. And why would you be so caught up in that if you weren't trying to virtue signal to people who had other nefarious ideas and like, oh, yeah, this is crazy, whatnot, right? Fast forward a few years later to right now, she completely changes her tune and she decides all of a sudden that inclusive language is exclusive to her somehow. By including others, she feels left out. You know, similar arguments have been used in the past to justify some pretty bad things, right? Anyway, people then in her progressive audience, where she still goes and does a news show at the home of the progressives, the progressive network, the Young Turks, and it's like, wow, why are all these people in my audience so angry with me for changing my progressive opinion into a regressive opinion? Do I work at the regressive Turks network? Yes, I do, but I don't know that yet. You know what I mean? That's what's the problem here. That's why people are pissed off, guys. I mean, if Ana had started her career in 2004 as like a big old turf, I would have just written her off as like a fucking, you know, Republican sycophant, like, you know, talking head, right? That could have been who she was, and then we wouldn't really be having this discussion. It's the fact that she continues to cosplay as a leftist while spouting fucking Republican talking points, and that's one thing I cannot stand for, bro. I won't stand for it. Aggression will not stand.
Yep. And once again, another fucking lie from Ana Kasparian, acting like as soon as she sent out the birthing person tweet, all the flying monkeys of the progressive left just descended on her mansion and tore her to shreds, ripped her guts from her abdomen.
Should have done.
Right. That's what you would assume, right? If you're just watching this podcast. But guess what? I fucking remember what happened. Guess what happened? All the most prominent progressive leftist hosts accumulated on a podcast called The Leftist Mafia. And guess what? Like 5 out of the 6 of them fucking defended Ana Kasparian. Not in the full sense of the word. They didn't come out here and say she was correct to say that, but they said, hey, come on. Ana Kasparian's our friend. She's a progressive. She's a genuine leftist. I know we don't agree with her here, but let's have a calm discussion about that. Let's unpack this. Let's maybe, you know, have her on to discuss. I don't remember exactly what they said, but it was not this scorched earth condemnation. It was not a cancellation. One person, good friend of the show, Eliamio Lauren, after about 20 minutes of that shit, said, what is this, the coddle the white woman hour? To which a few of them laughed. It was a funny joke. That's what pissed off Ana Kasparian. That's what made her turn against the left and go scorched earth on us, try to cancel us over a fucking joke. She can't even handle a fucking joke from Olay, one of the most hilarious people who obviously is not in the
She also doesn't like Olay because Olay embarrassed the fuck out of Cenk when Cenk had her on. And it's like, yeah, you fucking play with fire, you get burned, dude. That's a real lawyer. That's a public defender, or I don't know if she still is a public defender in New York. At one point, she was. This lady knows the bail laws.
Yep.
This lady knows the ins and outs. She knows how the sausage is made. There's some people you don't want to fucking argue with about like local politics, right? Like my girlfriend, she is a local government, like KC city council reporter. She knows every in and out about what the fuck is happening in the city all the time. Try and debate her at the bar about what the fuck's going on, right? It's not going to happen. Talk to somebody like Ole, who knows the ins and outs of the fucking New York City justice system, the lack of justice system, like how they will hold you, how they will make this happen, all the inequities, right? And you have a guy like Cenk who sits there, is pretty confident, but then do a fucking lick of homework beforehand. Yeah, you're going to get caught with your pants down. The emperor's going to be seen to have no clothes. And that's exactly what happened to him on his own broadcast. And that was another reason why it just lit a fuse. And it does seem like that corresponded a lot with Ana Kasparian's just I'm leaving the left. I'm going to just go, honestly, I'm going to go back to being the coddled white woman, honestly.
Yep. But once again, just acting like we're a bunch of whiny, censorious authoritarians. It was you that couldn't handle a joke. And it was you that couldn't defend your own shitty ideas when multiple people tried to engage you in a calm and civil discussion. The exact sort of discussion and debate that you now fetishize with your right-wing counterparts in media. People like Ben Shapiro and Sitchin Adam and Jesse Singal and all of these fucking idiots, the actual justice warrior, all these people that you now cuddle up to because it's a nice safe space for you, and you pretend to engage in discourse with people who disagree with you, but the actual people who disagreed with you, you shunned and you tried to cancel. Meanwhile, fucking gaslighting everyone and pretending that it was the reverse.
How dare you?
It's not like I tweeted, I refuse to respect your pronouns, or I don't believe in transgender people having the ability to ever transition. Like nothing like that. It was just about what I prefer. And
it's so funny too, because I hate interrupting this so much, but I also hate listening to Ana Kasparian. Immediately after she was like, I don't want to be called a birthing person, she was like, oh, let me just go run and cuddle up to Ben Shapiro, who literally wants you to be a baby making machine. He does not want you to have a fucking career. He wants you to be a stay at home fucking, a living baby maker.
One of them, just says that I'm against being inclusive. I'm a TERF, which was also hilarious because I didn't know that I was even a radical feminist, but apparently I am.
Right.
So I just started seeing some behaviors
That's where the hang up
on
is.
the far left that were.
Also, again, it's like, as you pointed out, Zach, she intentionally cultivated the most progressive audience for like at least 6 years straight, and then is going to act shocked and fucking chagrined when she says something that's not exactly progressive, and then her insanely progressive audience responds. Like, yeah, you can't really fault these people. They literally were listening to you because they agreed with you, because you were saying progressive things, and not a lot of people in media say truly progressive things. That's why they watch the Young Turks. So yeah, don't act fucking shocked when you change your tune all of a sudden and people are upset. I mean, we've experienced that in our own channel, or you know what I'm saying? Like, we build a certain kind of audience and then our opinions change, people get pissed off. It is what it is. That's just like what it's about.
Yeah.
Are similar to behaviors that you see on the far right. Now, their beliefs are different, but the way they behave is very similar. And I realized that I had been regurgitating certain talking points without even realizing I was doing it, to be honest with you. I was spreading this stuff.
So she admits to the fact she doesn't think for herself. Okay.
Then,
That's a nice confession, because you're still not doing that.
once I started questioning things, two things happened. I became a lot more uncomfortable at work and more uncomfortable covering stories in the way that I've been covering them, over the last few years. But I also started to feel a lot happier in a lot of ways. Like in my personal life, I felt happier because I was able to look at my political opponents in a much more sober way. And instead of having,
she realized, well, we're all in the
mentality
same
about
class
people I
boat
disagree
now,
with,
right? We're all just LARPing for the audience. We're all just, hey, come on, guys. Like, oh, where'd you buy your Maserati? Oh, yeah, dude. Okay. Where do you vacation in the Cape? Oh, that's nice. I do enjoy that. I like a sailboat every once in a while, though. No, normally we're West Coasters, so we go up to, yeah. Well, anyway, thanks. Yeah, have a good time. No, I do still think that women have the right to an abortion, but you're convincing me. We'll talk about that more next time.
I decided, let me actually understand their arguments in good faith. And even though oftentimes I still disagree with them, I at least understand where they're coming from instead of just assuming that we're living in this country that's full of bigots, full of racist people, full of hateful people. That's not a good worldview to have.
I just realized
It's
I'm
not
one of them.
conducive to living a happy life, and it's also not rooted in reality. So that's where most of the changes came from. And that tweet that you just referenced is pretty cringeworthy.
Although I would like to say, if any trans people have slept with Joe Rogan, you can reach out to us too. We would also be interested in talking to you. It's interesting. You sort of embody that quote. Who was it? Irving Kristol, that quote about a liberal being mugged by reality. That literally happened to you.
That's true. I mean, I wasn't literally mugged, but it was, look, and people get on my case about this, like, oh, well, you weren't willing to see the truth until you experienced something. And that's true.
That's how shit works.
That is
Bro,
unfortunately
this is
how
an
how stuff works, yeah.
insane confession right now. She's literally telling you all of us to our fucking ears right now, just no bones about it, because she's trying to ingratiate herself with this audience, not her own audience, right? And so what is she saying? She's like, yeah, after this happened, I realized I wasn't a progressive anymore. This is her why I left the left speech, everybody. I just want, when we put this out as a clip, Gavin, I think we should just caption it, Ana Kasparian leave, like her why I left the left. Like, this is a confession, dude. This is a confession of why I left left. She literally is saying, this is verbatim. Go back like 30 seconds because I want maybe 15 seconds. I want everybody to hear this again. This is the why I left the left moment when she says, you're the liberal who got mugged by reality. And she's like, I wasn't exactly mugged by reality or mugged, but yeah, that's basically what happened. And people say, oh, you didn't see the light. She's talking about Republicans, by the way. She's talking about conservatives. She's saying conservatives are telling her that she didn't see the light until something bad happened to her. And the other lady is like, that's how shit happens. And she's like, yeah, that right there, 100% in a court of law in front of a jury. That's a confession. You left the left. Holy shit. Smoking gun, everybody.
Yep.
That's true. I mean, I wasn't literally mugged, but it was, look, and people get on my case about this, like, oh, well, you weren't willing to see the truth until you experienced something. And that's true.
That's how shit works.
That is unfortunately how stuff works. Yes, definitely.
That's the exact same thing happened to me. And I think it happens to most people. I think a lot of people have found this podcast because they've gone through some destabilizing experience, realizing that the things they always thought were true aren't true.
Bro.
So give me an example. What are some of the...
It's about to get better. It's about to get even better, guys. Oh my gosh. I just can't believe it. This is insane.
What are some of the platitudes that you always believe that you have come to believe are now wrong?
It's not so much the platitudes, it's the double standards that really continue to wake me up. I think the believe all women phrase during the Me Too era was an interesting, it was just an interesting era to revisit, because in the modern times, right, if you have someone like me, for instance, who expresses
someone like me.
A terrible experience, and I just want to talk about it. Like, I wasn't even looking to make a point. It was just, I've gone through this, it's awful. I don't know. I just felt like being vulnerable with my audience, which apparently was a really, really bad decision. And to be fair, look, most people in our audience didn't say terrible things. Okay, so
yeah, exactly.
To be fair, I lied about that.
Wait, what do you mean? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. She's like, it was terrible. I shouldn't have done it. To be fair, almost 99% of the audience was great.
And that was all lies. That was LARPing for your audience, so they love me. Who doesn't like to wheeze the juice a little bit? We're all fucking, we're human after all.
Again, she acts like she just broke out that story in a vacuum and everyone attacked her for no reason because she was a victim of terrible sexual assault. That's not what happened. She broke that story out multiple months into her pivot into tough on crime Fox News light propaganda, and people were like, "I'm sorry."
To shield her from criticism, yes. And then people said that they were sorry for her, but then also continued to criticize her on the substance, which is exactly what you would expect someone to do. It's kind of like, this is obviously an extreme inflammatory example, right? But it's like, I was molested as a child, and that's why I molested somebody when I was an adult, right? That's obviously a fucking extreme hyperbole, but it's like, we're all really sorry that happened to you. That no excuse for how you were treated. But what you did, it doesn't make it right that something bad happened to you, right? In the same way, what happened to Ana is horrible, but it also doesn't make it right for her to go on. And I want to remind everybody, after what you just listened to again for the umpteenth time, she's going to go and sit in front of a desk like this, collect a big check that says the Progressive News Network. They used to call themselves the largest progressive network on YouTube. I don't know if they still brand like that. But that's what she's about to do after she's just confessed that that's not her belief system anymore. She's lying to her audience for money.
But that woke me up. And then you look at what we're seeing in modern times. For instance, the allegations of Hamas carrying out rapes, and the denials around that are shocking. Look, Norm Finkelstein he goes much further than I've ever gone in regard to critiquing trans activists or the trans community. Someone like Brianna Joy Gray totally trashed me over my mild tweet about how I'd like to be referred
Are you 80 fucking years old? Do you want me to trash Norm? Norm, last time he came on, fucking credit to him, he was like, you guys seemed afraid of me. You guys looked, we were fucking shit scared. Norm's an intimidating guy. I was like, oh, fucking hey. But yeah, I think he has dog shit opinions on trans people. And if we'd had him on to have that discussion, we'd have fucking locked horns and debated, right? But Norm doesn't run a fucking show every day. Like, he goes on and does fucking interviews, and it is bullshit. And if he had a huge platform like Ana Kasparian does and was actively reaching our similar audience, we would make a bigger point to critique him for that.
Pivot though, like, it's not like he spent 5 or 6 years making a name as this, super pro trans lefty progressive. Like, no, the reason people for the most part have on Norm Finkelstein is to talk about Israel and Palestine. It's not like culture war nonsense and bullshit. To be fair to Brianna Joy Gray though, I actually do think she's had on Norm Finkelstein to talk about some of his hot takes on
We'll debate
politics.
anybody.
Yeah, exactly. She's talked about like some of his hot takes when it comes to things like identity politics, stuff like that. I don't know if she like specifically called him out over it, but she's definitely expressed her disagreements where they might exist. And again, Norm Finkelstein hasn't spent the last 6 years on TYT woke scolding everyone, as the freaking host of this show said earlier. So yeah, it makes her pivot a little bit more noteworthy when all of a sudden it's like, what happened? Why are you now making this bizarre ideological 180 when it comes to this, after you've spent so many years preaching about inclusive language and accepting trans people and all this stuff?
It's kind of like when we have fat disagreements with Glenn. Like, we had Glenn on, and Gavin kind of took the lead on that, but we debated. Gavin's a better debater than I am. I'm more of the funny man, I'm better for color commentary. Gavin's better when it comes to the fucking rubber meeting the road. We got to fucking break somebody's head open. Okay?
I don't know, bro. You've been on fire lately.
Oh, I appreciate that. But anyway, long story short was we're not afraid to debate people that we respect, right? And one of the things that I do admire about Glenn is that he will have that fucking conversation and that he will fucking talk to you about it. And it's not like he, and he's a guy that's a gay man himself, right? So he has his own POV, and I totally disagree with where he landed on it. But it's kind of like when he does all the like weird shit, like, sympathizing with some Republicans that I find unsavory. I'm like, well, the dude fucking has been pretty consistently like kind of like just a big freedom, like kind of libertarian guy for a long time. And even though he does have like common sense when it comes to things like healthcare, because he's lived fucking abroad and he's, not a fucking idiot. But anyway, we have differences of opinions. Like when he's like, oh, Tucker's an interesting guy, I'm like, you are saying things that might as well be foreign to my fucking ears. Like, you know what I mean? But that doesn't mean that you can't respect them. What's the problem with Ana Kasparian that Gavin keeps pointing out is that she's a liar and she constantly misrepresents who she is, right? If you come out here and you say, I hold all these values, and then you change them overnight, like, now I have to start to wonder, like, did you ever have conviction about anything? Can I take you seriously about anything? Or was this all just for clout? Did you just say this because you thought it would help build your audience? And I fucking hate people who just say shit to build their audience, okay? Gavin and I, if we wanted to do that, we would be down in the Florida Keys making, white guy with dreadlock content for people who are going to vote MAGA, okay? Gavin would sign an immediate deal with Marlboro Reds, and in exchange for a life of lung cancer that ends when he's 48, we would have our own houseboat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, dude, is that a deal? Can I get that deal set up with Marlboro?
Yeah, Gavin's like, I'll live until 48 if you give me a fucking houseboat. I'll chain smoke like a motherfucker and hope I have Keith Richards' genetics.
Can't get enough of Norm Finkelstein, and would never criticize him for his stance on the trans community. There's just like so many double standards.
I literally just did,
and
by the way.
I realized that a lot of this is theater. A lot of this is similar to
no, that's what you're doing,
school, like
and you're projecting that on the rest of us.
Scolding and the in-group, out-group stuff. And so I've decided that I don't want to be wedded to any of that. And if you kind of shed yourself of ideology and
can we pause
try
this
to
for a
find
second?
The truth in any given story.
I was sitting in Bronx Brewery about a week and a half ago, right? And it was afternoon. I was on vacation. I was having some pints, and they were playing the new Taylor Swift record. And I texted Gavin because Gavin had made fun of the new Taylor Swift record a lot to me because it sounded like just like the worst, like sewage dribble fucking reinterpretation of Lana Del Rey, who had made some pretty good records, I will say, over the years, and really pioneered a style that took hold, that just now, a decade later, Taylor Swift has decided she wants to play in that sandbox, even though she has no real business doing it. And it comes off like super transparently, just insincere, you know? And I tweeted out that, you know, Taylor Swift is like embarrassing herself by trying, to, recreate the party that nobody invited her to in 2014. You know what I mean? And I feel the same way about Ana Kasparian. In 2014, 10 years ago, there was probably no better content to make than, I just hate woke scolders and social justice warriors. I just hate all these pink-haired liberals, yada, yada, yada. And it seems like Anna really feels like she missed the boat on that. So a decade later, she's throwing the party that nobody invited her to a decade late, basically. She's showing up a decade late to the anti-SJW content. And she's going to realize real quick that you have to go MAGA if you want to make that sustainable in 2024.
You're covering, you're going to be led in a much better direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And as a journalist, this does put you in an uncomfortable position. I experienced a similar thing at The Stranger. I was, since really the day I started there, pretty unpopular, I think, because of this position. And then I made it worse for myself by doing things like questioning some Me Too stories, which was very unpopular to do in 2016, 2017, 2018. So what was it like for you? What is it like for you to be at work now?
It's not too bad. Most people from work actually get to work from home. So it's not like I'm confronted by coworkers who are furious with me. When I put out that tweet, that was probably the most uncomfortable I've ever been at work, because you said you'd rather be called a woman than a pregnant person. Correct.
Or whatever, a birthing person or person with uterus or person who menstruate. Like, I don't. Right.
Listen, I get
which
that
again, no one called Ana Kasparian that. It's not like she was like debating some lefty and they paused to, refer to her as a person with a vagina or something. Like, that just didn't fucking happen. It was on a medical form, as you admitted. No one called you that, bro. Like, it's just so stupid. It's so fucking stupid. Imagine still bringing that up in your little diatribe about how shitty the left is. I had to fucking see a medical form with a term on it I didn't like.
Yeah, it's okay. The letter hack. Anna blocked me on Twitter because I made a funny joke about Rick Caruso.
Oh yeah, we're getting to a great part real quick here about the blocking.
Activist groups who want to normalize talking about getting your period or whatever. I don't. I would prefer not to talk about it.
Right.
So, those bodily functions being used to identify women really bother me. And
we should just refer to everybody as a person who shits. Although that might not be inclusive of people who don't shit.
Only for men, though. Only for men.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's just what ended up happening was we had, at the time,
she's got to get acquainted with right-wing comedy.
Her name is Benny. When she started working for us, she hadn't transitioned yet and hadn't even told anyone that she identified as transgender. And so I met Benny as male, and we didn't ever really work too closely together. I think we might have hosted one panel discussion on our network, but she really felt the need to represent the trans community and speak out against me. And so she starts putting out tweets, starts making videos about me, starts having these conversations, wants to have a debate with me and Cenk on air. Cenk says
while still working there? While you're working there? Oh,
yes. Yeah.
Your subordinate?
And Cenk was willing to talk to me privately. And
this is Cenk Unger. This is your co-host.
Cenk Unger.
Cenk Unger.
Yeah, founder, CEO.
What if she doesn't even correct it or correct her?
I feel like it's like a running joke, but right-wingers just cannot pronounce Cenk Unger. Like, they can't fucking do it. It's always some horrifically botched, like, borderline racial slur. Yeah. I'm like, how the fuck is this still happening? He's been a mainstay internet commentator for fucking decades now.
The co-host of the main TYT show. And that conversation apparently was not good enough for Benny. And so she ends up leaving the company very publicly. And so do the moderators for our YouTube chat. They put out a Google Doc. I've never read it. I thought it was ridiculous. Just saying that I'm a terrible transphobe and it's unacceptable.
If you didn't read it, then how the fuck do you know that's what it said? She's like, I didn't read it. And then it said, I'm a terrible transphobe. I'm awful. I'm the worst. I'm like, you don't even fucking know what it says. I'm pretty sure we read it on air and it was very, it was definitely intense. Like it was,
I don't think we read the whole thing, but we skimmed.
We read some of it, but it was like, it was professional. It was like, here's our issue. This is why we're leaving. This is what we think the issue is with the network. We don't want to be a part of it anymore. It wasn't like, fuck Ana Kasparian, let's cancel her, grab your pitchforks, we're meeting up outside her house tonight. Like, none of that. It's ridiculous.
Acceptable. At that time, by the way, Cenk also said some stuff that apparently really got under people's skin, because he thinks that, the trans athlete situation is a lot more difficult to find solutions for. And
again,
we
what
need to
is the
find a way
most
to move forward
watered down fucking Republican opinion from 10 years ago? Guys, this is what Joe Rogan used to talk about all the time. I remember when my sister graduated from college, okay? It's probably like 2018, 2017. I don't fucking know, right around there. This is like before Joe Rogan Spotify, but like still when all my friends made fun of me for listening to him, so he wasn't cool anymore, but like he was still like way better than now. He hadn't moved to Austin, Texas or anything. And anyway, one of my sisters are like really good friends in college, is like the fucking most jacked lesbian you'll ever see in your entire life, and she does jujitsu, and she's, you know, stacked, and she runs her own gym, and she's a personal trainer and shit, right? We both used to bond about how Joe was mildly problematic, but under the right circumstances, it was actually kind of fun to get stoned and listen to it, because she was really into like weed and weightlifting, you know. And I was like, of course she became a fucking Joe Rogan fan, because back in the day it was actually cool to kind of listen to sometimes, because he wasn't just a hateful person interviewing a bunch of like delusional fucks all the time. Anyway, that was his whole thing, where he was like, I don't know, guys, I don't really care about, you know, whatever, live your life, but like, I just don't think you should put a young girl in there with a man. And I'm like, dude, nobody is doing that. Nobody is doing that. Like, we need to, oh yeah, dude. If both parties agree to it, then like, fucking, it's America, bro. I thought you were pro freedom. You know what I mean? It's just crazy that they pearl clutch and fear monger about this. It's like suddenly you guys give a shit about women's sports and swimming. I don't think so.
Yeah, also, I don't even really remember people getting all that upset about any specific comments Cenk made about trans sports stuff. I'm not denying that it happened, but what I remember people really getting upset with Cenk over at the same time was the Rick Caruso stuff.
Right.
Him endorsing billionaire real estate developer Rick Caruso as the next mayor of Los Angeles, mostly because he was promising to put all the homeless people in concentration camps 30 miles outside of the city or whatever the fuck.
Wait, that happened? I forgot about that. I remember that Hassan and him really debated that Thanksgiving, and that was a big deal. But I can't believe that. I mean, I can believe that because it's Cenk Uygur, but just imagine getting in front of your audience and telling people you're a progressive, but we just got to get rid of all these fucking pores, man. We got to get rid of
them out.
Including, you know, girls and women
Right.
that don't have the same, you know, muscle mass and all of that stuff. Anyway, so it was just TYT went from being this leftist utopia for people to suddenly having these two hosts that are willing to question certain things that we had previously
we were willing to become
question.
Republicans.
And so we get accused now of being right wingers. We get accused of all sorts of taking money, of being grifters, even though my financial situation hasn't changed, even though I've never left to work somewhere else.
But she can't say because we've never taken money, though. Did you notice that? She can't say we've never taken money. Oh, even though we've never taken money. No, because you took that 20 milli. You took that Katzenberg bread. And then you stopped swearing on your show. So don't act like the money didn't change you.
I don't think I'd be very happy at the Daily Wire. I don't think they take kindly to some of our coverage of what's happening in Gaza, for instance. And so I'm just in this weird place because I don't really belong in any specific ideology at the moment. And I think that would be the case for most people if they, again, untether themselves from a partisan group and just focused on what the truth of any given situation actually is.
So you said that this has made your work a little bit harder and your life a little bit better, but I'm curious, I mean, this shift you've gone through has obviously caused some conflict for you at work and online. You get dragged on the internet, including by former fans and colleagues. There's a Twitter account called Post Left Watch that is particularly dedicated to painting you as a fascist. How do you deal with that?
Bro, shout out to the Post Left Watch. Sometimes they hate on us.
Interesting case because.
But they also fairly follow us on Twitter, and sometimes they have dog shit takes. Sometimes they have good takes. But I thought it was so funny. Like that account's not that big. It's not that big. It's just like. What do you care about that account, bro? You're supposed to be the fucking half the face of a channel with 5 million subs, but you've fallen off so hard and you're so bad at what you do. Crazy.
Yeah, dude, it's wild. This account has like 20,000 followers, and she acts like it's like defaming her and shit. Listen to this.
Whoever the person is running that Twitter account or X account, he or she will literally highlight points that I want to amplify, right? Like, so sometimes they'll take me out of context, and so I'll have to clarify. But oftentimes what I would do is I would quote tweet the video or the clip, and I would say something along the lines of, yes, I did say this, and I just want to double down because it's true. Or I would say, oh, it's missing this. Most people in the replies and the likes sided with me and then probably left some negative comments for the person running that account. And so they just decided to block me so they can continue doing what they're doing without me having the ability to respond to it.
Okay, well, that's petty. That's petty post left watch. If you want to play the game, you got to play the game. No, come on now. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, that's you know, pardon the problematic language, but you know, in Kansas City we have a phrase for that. That's called bitch shit. That's bitch shit right there. Can't be doing that. And I mean that in non-gender terms, okay?
Yeah.
But it's the
Michael Hobbs move.
Yeah, totally. And I just, again, find it so cowardly. If you're going to call me out, give me the opportunity to respond and either defend myself or engage in a debate.
And by the way, just in case anyone forgot, Ana Kasparian herself is pretty notorious for hitting that block button.
Dude, she blocked us and then tweeted out one of our videos, by the way.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, I do agree that it's kind of a pussy move on the Post Left Watch account to block her, but come on, Anna. You're not one to.
Wow, Gavin didn't even apologize for his sexist language first. Shame on you. Don't worry. I'm here to woke scold. Can't let the reputation of the left slip away.
All right. There's a couple good moments in this, guys.
Debate with me if you want to. That's totally fine. But one of the more recent examples was I gave Florida Governor Ron DeSantis praise because he immediately did something about the squatter issue that is kind of taking place all across the country. It's been a real problem in New York. And while I don't know how widespread it was in Florida,
it has not been a real problem in New York.
Passed a bipartisan law that Ron DeSantis signed. And I was impressed with how quickly they moved on the issue.
You were impressed by how quickly Republicans came after poor people?
Good, but I do not subscribe to that anymore at all. So if they do something good, I'm going to give them praise for it. And that's what I did with Ron DeSantis. And then a week later, he did something I totally disagreed with, and I criticized him for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it's strange to me that this is somehow controversial. I mean, I guess it is, because if you want to be spoon-fed things that you already believe, there's Fox News and there's MSNBC, and they seem to be doing okay, although not as well as they used to. But to me, it just seems boring to follow a commentator who is so predictable that you always know what they're going to believe based on the affiliation of the person they're talking about.
Yeah,
I hate people with conviction.
Society to live in. That was the other thing. I remember you
Team Red or Team Blue, and that's it.
Exactly. And I remember you had.
How about being team my own fucking principles for a second, right? Like, how about just I'm on team me? I'm on team. I stand for what the fuck I stand for, and I'll call out anybody, but I'm consistent. I have principles. That's something Anna can't say. That's something that Anna can't argue for herself, right? She is wishy-washy. She's clay. She's malleable. She doesn't have her own sense of self. She doesn't look at the world and say, it's honestly, it's crazy to me, right? Like, I honestly, like, it's a blessing and a curse because I have an anxiety disorder, right? But it's like, okay, the internal fucking like conscience that we all have, like, does it just not work for some people? Like, I feel like everybody that I know and that I generally spend time with, like, if you do something that you like know is fucked up, like if I just came out here and started like screaming like, yeah, I hate trans people and I want them all to, whatever, fuck something vile, right? Like, I wouldn't be able to sleep that good because I would know that I had contributed to like a horrible, horrible thing. You know what I mean? Like, I just wouldn't be able to live with myself. Like, if I do something wrong, like in my personal life with my friends, like it will fucking like eat me up inside and I have to like fucking talk about it or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just against my nature to not just have a certain way that I feel strongly about a situation going. Gavin, you will typically always have a gut reaction, like, is this moral? Is this immoral? Sometimes we debate, but we always have a feeling on the matter, right? Imagine just not having that, and you could just pick and choose and be like, no, I don't know. Moving on from that. I actually, blah. Either she is doing that now because she decides that it's actually more fruitful to pursue a, more alt-right cultural fucking, I don't want to, just like a weird blasé blend of like liberal politics and right-wing culture points. Or was she deliberately misleading us of her values for the last decade and making money pretending to be a leftist when she wasn't, right? Those are her two options. And neither of them look very fucking good for her. And both of them lead you to the sense that she doesn't have any true conviction, that she doesn't have any true sense of self. And that's like the one thing that you should look for in a commentator. You don't have to agree on everything. It's boring to listen to people that you agree with on everything. I like, you know what I mean? I don't listen to shows all the time on things that I already know about where I know I agree. Like, I don't need to hear Brianna Joy Gray talk about why we need universal health care. I know why we need universal health care, right? Like, I probably won't click on that video. I might want to hear Brianna Joy Gray interview Ajama Baraka, as we're about to later on in the podcast, but I don't need to hear somebody all like opine about why, like, you know, the electoral college is rigged. Like, I know that already, you know, something like that.
Yep, exactly. There's one more part that I want to quickly listen to. This is hilariously dramatic from Anna, and then we can move on to that segment that you just mentioned, Zach. But get a load of this.
Opens up the world in a way that can be really exciting.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. The destabilizing element of it is very much true, and that's definitely the worst part of it. But I also agree that it opens up a new exciting world. Going back to what I was feeling about boredom, I don't have that boredom anymore, and suddenly I've opened up my mind to hearing other voices who, you know, previously I thought all these terrible things about, but then you start reading their content or watching the videos they put together, and you realize, oh my God, I had a totally inaccurate idea of who this person is.
Yeah.
And so I like that because, again, it goes back to what's been making me happier in my personal life, kind of seeing the world for what it is and not having this like doomer mentality about everyone who disagrees with me politically. But the one thing I'll say, this is the I guess the final thing I'll say, because I don't think I've ever said this anywhere else. And it's what I feel internally and what I'm kind of dealing with behind the scenes. I've only done one thing in life, and it was TYT. Like, really, I've done one thing. I don't have kids. I've chosen not to. And I feel that I have a lot of guilt, and I feel like the one thing I've done in life, I've done it wrong. So I'm just trying to be better.
Yeah.
You know, that's all.
Well, you're doing, I think, a fantastic.
Oh God, we got to the spicy part where my speculation came. We got revealed. She was cosplaying the whole time, guys. She didn't actually believe that shit. Oh,
Yeah, dude. Isn't that crazy?
It's all been a lie. And what's crazy is that people will still watch her on that fucking network, lie to them. You know, maybe she's not doing it anymore, but I lied to you guys for a decade. But take me sincerely now as your news broadcaster. What the fuck? Yeah. That's her why I left the left speech, dude. She's crying right there.
And she's guilty because she was nice to trans people and was a good-natured progressive who stood up for marginalized and oppressed people.
Homeless take over Los Angeles. I'll let California fall on my watch. Fucking crazy, dude. Asinine.
Yeah, like this is what you would expect from like a right winger who's turning into a left winger, you know, like some hateful bigot who's looking back on their, you know, past 10 years of spewing racism and homophobia on the air, and now they've had a come to Jesus moment and they're like, fuck, I don't want to spend my life spewing hatred. I feel so guilty. But you can't even say that about Anna. I mean, maybe she got a fact wrong here or there on the podcast back in her progressive era, but that's what you're guilty about, being progressive and standing up for homeless people and trans folks and shit like
really
that.
Really brings her to tears, man. I just can't. Every squatter on the street, fucking brings